Hello, this is RM coming back to you. I know it's been a few days, but I do have a few topics that I would like to talk to you about. They've been on my mind heavily, especially with the current state of housing and our economy and everything. And I just want to talk about a few things and kind of my ideas of how we can change that. So, first, I want to talk about the poor quality of items from our housing, how our homes are being built, how our appliances are being built, how our clothes are being built, how our food is, just everything. I can't name one thing that is quality really anymore. Um, our houses that are being built, there's constantly issues that are being found with either things weren't built correctly, so making that sure that the supports are actually correct, especially up in like the attic supporting the roof, insulation is being properly installed, floors being properly installed, walls, doors, you name it, a various part of the home construction process is not being completed as it should be. And then you get into like appliances, for example, washer and dryers. Back in my mom and my grandma's day, you could buy a washer and it will last you 40, 50 years. You may have to get parts for it, but you could find parts, you could replace it, and that washer would be just as good. Especially since I come from a farming family and construction family, they get very dirty. So those clothes are covered in oil, dirt, sand, mud, whatever you can think of. They come home covered in it, and you need to clean those clothes. And those washers were able to do it consistently with little to no issues. You look at the washer and dryers that are being sold today, and you're lucky to get a few years out of them before they just don't work, and then you have to buy a whole new unit or try and go through warranty and then find out that your warranty expired and or it's not covered. um, it's really just a way to get you to pay more for the same products that you need to be able to live in our current society. Sure, there's other ways to be able to wash your clothes or to be able to do certain things, but like, for example, the building of a house or even buying clothes, um, you can't tell me that there's a cheap way to even get fabric to try and make your own clothes. I know because I try to do sewing and sew clothes for my kiddo, who's a first grader. So we go through a lot of clothes, especially as he's growing. And fabric's not cheap. It's to the point where it's almost just cheaper to go and try and buy in bulk, rather than to try and make it yourself. And that even goes into, like shopping at Walmart. I find that Walmart's clothing fall apart on me way faster than some of the other clothing brands. So really it's this tug of, you know, quality over quantity. We're pushing out quantity and really not caring about quality while still charging the same, if not more, than we paid just a few years ago. This is just not set up for sustainability at all, and I feel like that needs to change. I also feel like the pay right now is another topic that I want to talk about. Current wages are super lacking. No secret, I have been trying to find a job for over a year now. I lost my other job working as a privacy specialist, because I was harassed out of that by my supervisor, my manager, and my VP. Um, I haven't been able to find work. I keep being told that, there's just so many other great candidates and I will, find a job eventually, right? Well, the thing is that even looking for jobs, everything that I'm qualified for, I'm lucky to find a job that's paying over 20 an hour. And even then, I'm not getting hired for said job. And I'm being told I have too much experience or not enough experience for that job. The pay scale of what just the average worker is being paid is ridiculous, especially when you compare it to people like the Starbucks CEO who commutes from California to Washington on a regular basis, but yet is closing down multiple Starbucks locations, quote unquote, due to various reasons, like underperforming, when we know that that's not true. Um, it's seen all over. So this is my thoughts about this: is that we need a big change. We need to do something to change how our society is going, because honestly, it's making us all broke. You can't afford to rent an apartment. You can't afford food. God forbid your car breaks down, or In the case where I live, TriMet is constantly breaking down. You're constantly having delays. So good luck getting to work on time because the Max isn't working. Um, I would like to propose ideas of how to change this. Now, they're not perfect. They need to have work done and much more input because these are just my own ideas that I have been kind of thinking on, sitting on, trying to decide, what I think would be the best way. And after a lot of contemplation and thinking about it, I went to kind of propose my fair pay scale. Um, and this is how I have it set up in like a 3-tier kind of model. Now, before I get into this, I just want to say I have been working on an idea for a transportation company to basically revolutionize trains and how electric cars are currently being put out there for us. I think that we need a way better transportation system. I have a way of connecting rural areas to the much more urban populated areas, doing it in a safe and effective way, and not using coal, but using existing new technology that I personally believe would work and be able to change everything for the better for us. Um, so just with that in mind, I do have my own ideas for if I was ever lucky enough to start this transportation business, I would be following these same policies. So the fair pay scale that I want to talk about with my 3 tiers is I have ranges. So let's say you're like me, a small business. Well, I'm not a small business, but let's say you are a small business and you're making between 0 to 2 million. This may sound like a lot, but I feel like you should not be making more than 50% of your lowest paid worker. They are still coming in. They are the face of your company. They are doing the job for you, and they deserve to be paid enough to be able to survive. Food, housing, transportation, and you know what? We do need to have some kind of stress relief. So, entertainment. You need to be able to go out and have a good time with your friends, whether that's going to a bar, going and seeing a movie, going and seeing a concert, even just taking a trip. Being able to get away from all of your stress for a day and just be able to go and breathe the fresh air somewhere else. That is so important for us as people. So, why do I say you should not be making more than 50% of your lowest wage worker? Well, it's all of those things. They are working for you. They are either building your product for you, or they are acting as customer service, or they are doing a whole number of things for you. I believe that the range should be between 0 and 2 million. I don't believe anyone is creating anything right now that's like the polio vaccine or anything that just purely benefits humans as a whole. You cannot convince me otherwise right now that like Amazon, uh, Jeff Bezos, like any of them, I'm sorry, but I do not fall into that bandwagon of they are just so superior. They used the tools that were available at the time and got lucky. Same with Musk. He used his knowledge of the market, what was going on, and he invested. He is not the one who is coming up with all these ideas of how to actually implement and like build the actual product. He sees the potential in it and he capitalizes on that and buys it all out because he has the money and resources to be able to do that. So that goes into my next tier. If you make 2.1 to 10 million, I feel like that gets bumped down to 40% more than your lowest paid worker. So that would mean that you would have to, if you wanted to make a certain amount, your lowest paid worker would have to be making 60% of that. So you can't make 40% more than whoever your lowest paid worker is. And then from there, 10 million plus, it would drop down 5% to 35%. I feel like that is more than fair. From there, you have the problem of like investing with stocks where, CEOs can try and get around this pay scale by doing profit sharing or stocks. And I've thought about that quite a bit too. I feel like the same thing would apply. You cannot have more stocks than your employees who are doing the work and everything for you. Everyone would get a share. Sure, you may have more shares, but that would only be up to maybe 30% at most, including CEOs, executives, people who just simply want to invest, that kind of thing. Personally, I think investing is a double-edged sword. It's great for helping people get out of the struggle of constantly having to worry about money every single day. But at the same time, you become a money hungry person who is hounding that business to make certain choices so you get your pocketbook lined. I don't feel like there's a good way either way. That's why I feel like it's a double-edged sword. So I feel like everyone getting shares and then the CEO and those people not being able to just sell off all the stock would really help to limit that. Besides that, there would be benefits. It would be building trust between the workers and management. We would reduce turnover and burnout, which is really big. It would help with keeping wealth circulating in our local economies, make leadership more accountable to those that they serve, and it would be creating a culture of balance instead of this culture of greed. I know that not everyone is going to agree with this, but again, this is just my proposal of how we can help change our current system. I'm always open to other ideas and feedback, but this is just something that I have been kind of sitting on and thinking about, because today the top executives have got hundreds of times more money, more pay than the average worker who is actually making the product, who is the face of that company or business. Many companies just reward those who are at the top and don't really care about, the workers, if they get sick, their families, any of that. I'm going to throw out a reference here that I'm sure some of you will know, but Fred Meyer, he was a great example of it. Back before Kroger took over and he passed away, he made a habit of knowing every single employee's name, and you could go to him with a problem and he would help you. His wife and him set up a employee assistance fund. I do believe it was like one of the first in the country, to be able to provide financial assistance to his workers, because he knew that hard times come up and you may not be able to cover all the costs on your own. You need to have that help from where you are personally spending all of your time, 40 plus hours a week, more than you see your family and friends. You need to have that support from where you are spending so much of your resource. So that's just a few of my ideas. Like I said, I just want to see a change overall. I don't think that our current system, honestly, is going to lead us down any other road other than to one of ruin and houses burning and just, all other sorts of nonsense that will happen. Please let me know what you think about my ideas. Any concerns that you have. I know there will be a lot of pushback, especially with me saying that, between 0 to 2 million, you shouldn't be making more than 50% of what your workers are. And as someone who would love to start their own transportation business, that's something that I would follow too. I don't believe in just hogging all of the money or wealth that that business would create. I would want to invest it back into the business to make sure that it has longevity, rather than just being a quick cash grab like a lot of things are nowadays. Again, I go back to the Starbucks CEO, how we keep seeing multiple Starbucks locations close all of a sudden, and really it just comes down to greediness, poor decision making from a top that honestly will probably tank business overall. It's disheartening to see so many companies that have been in business for so long, hundreds of years, now because of poor management, they are having to close down. And I feel like we are really losing a lot because of that. So that's just a few of my ideas. Let me know what you think. I look forward to talking to you guys more. Thank you. RM out.